Sam Darnold is a good enough, competent quarterback in the NFL. He's just been ruined by Gase, who ruins everything he touches.
Well, no, it's ghosts that ruined Sam Darnold. But yeah, no, that's a good point. For him, Dan O'Shea sounded like you might have had something more to say.
I like Arthur Smith. I would be very happy with him as the new head coach. Wouldn't bother me at all, except that my favorite is Matt Campbell. I'd be slightly disappointed on not getting him. I think he would have a chance at if anyone would, at fixing Darnold. I'm not really on the keep Darnold train. I'm ready to trade him and start over. I think parting ways is best for both parties at this point. And I think he can be successful still.
I feel like
it would be extremely difficult for him to do so here.
I think what Sam Darnold needs, and a lot of people disagree with me on this, he needs to go to a team that's going to let him sit for a year, learn behind a successful veteran quarterback, and then be able to take over a talented roster. The Pittsburgh Steelers, I think, is a perfect spot for him.
Saints comes to mind when you talk about that.
Yep, let him sit behind Ben Roethlisberger or Drew Brees, and I think that we're going to see completely different Sam Darnold.
But I think the Jets need I personally would go with an offensive coordinator who's proven it. Now, I don't think they're going to get Bieniemy just because Bieniemy can literally pick where he wants to go, it feels like, because everybody's going to interview him. And the other one that I'd look at, but I don't know how likely it is to actually happen, would be, what's his name, the OC in Buffalo, Brian
Double? Yeah, Double.
Double, whatever.
Yeah.
I would look at one of those three guys just because the Jets really have not had an identity on offense at all. And quite frankly, it was some big defensive plays by young guys that, you bring in a decent, competent defensive coordinator, I think he can coach those guys, but the offense is either non-existent or it doesn't give you any confidence.
Yeah, no, you're right. The offense has been, for a long time with the Jets, has been the real weak spot. And we've seen what the Jets' defenses can be with just even in the recent past when they've been a bad team. They've had defenses that were not only competitive, but were very good. I think an offensive-minded coach maybe would be good for the offense, but I think in this role, focusing on their defense, their strength, which has always been their strength, but then putting together a very good offensive coordinator to take care of the offense, give them control of who's playing, give them control of the play calling, but make the focus of your team defense. That's what I think the Jets should do.
I mean, that seems to be what they've done so far as the interviews they've had. That does seem to be the way that they're looking.
Yeah.
To me, it looks like they're looking at everybody. It looks like they're casting a wide net and trying to talk to the candidates and see who they like. They've interviewed Bieniemy. They've interviewed, or at least requested to interview Dabble. They've expressed a lot of interest in Matt Campbell, Arthur Smith. I don't think they've gotten around to interviewing them yet. So, yeah, my thought is I don't care which side of the ball the head coach is on. As long as he's not an idiot, it'll be an improvement. That's all I'm asking for.
All right.
Well, it's hard to find a bigger idiot than Adam Gase. I don't think he should be coaching in the NFL.
I mean, Hugh Jackson comes to mind for bigger idiots, but...
I guess, yeah, that's true.
Dan Beebe.
There's some debate.
Yeah, Dan Beebe, really quick. Jets, what are your thoughts on the Jets head coach before we move on and really just not go through in depth and just give ideas? But the Jets, what are your thoughts for the Jets?
I was going to say Urban Meyer, but nobody's going to give him that much money.
I don't think that's true. But
apparently the Jags are all over him.
Which brings us...
Now, that's the thing I was going to touch on so that we don't really have to go through the Jags that much, is the fact that the Jags, to me, that statement by Khan, I don't know is so much of a statement of him wanting to be as hands-on. I think he wants to be involved, but I think that any team that's going to give Urban Meyer the job Urban Meyer is extremely hands-on with everything top to down in a program. So he might end up going to Jacksonville because Khan will want to be involved, but he'll basically give him the keys to the kingdom to do it.
I also think that it makes sense with what Khan has said. I didn't hear what Khan said before. You guys informed me of that. But if hiring Urban Meyer is what they plan to do, then it makes sense that a guy who's been in the NFL and with the NFL for a long time basically takes some of the control from the college coach until he's gotten more than just his feet wet. So I think that Urban Meyer makes a lot of sense for Jacksonville because he brings legitimacy. He knows how to run an offense. He knows how to make defense work. The only issue that I would have with Urban Meyer being an NFL head coach is we just don't know what he's got for the NFL. He doesn't necessarily breed NFL-style players at his programs, and so he's got to change his mindset a little bit, which is the risk you run with every college head coach coming into the NFL. But that's my biggest knock on Urban Meyer. If he can change his mindset to a pro-style coaching mentality, then he's going to kill it in the NFL regardless of where he goes.
They're going to give him his $15 million?
Well, last I saw was $12 million a year, but yeah, the Jags, because coaches don't count against the salary cap. So theoretically, they could pay him $100 million if they wanted. But are we pretty much all in agreement that Urban Meyer is going to be the head coach of the Jaguars?
Yes.
Seems like the likely fit, just the way that things have been being mentioned and how aggressive Jacksonville is about. It feels like getting him in there.
Yep. Yeah, I'd say it's at least like a 75% chance right now, if not better.
All right, let's go to the number 2 team, the Los Angeles Chargers. Now, I want to lead because there's one person that I think makes the most sense for the Chargers, and that is the current Tampa Bay Buccaneers offensive coordinator, Byron Leftwich. Give him a kid like Justin Herbert, and he's going to destroy the league. I think he makes absolutely the most sense to be the Chargers head coach. I wanted him in Dallas, but I feel like Chargers is a much better fit for him than the Cowboys would have been.
I mean, Leftwich is not a bad suggestion. I honestly feel like Bieniemy will go there just because it gives him the most to work with right off the bat with what his skill set is, and it's the best situation for him. It's a young quarterback he can develop. We obviously saw what he was able to do with Patrick Mahomes in the offense. He's got weapons there. They need a running back that's more stable in playing, but you've got wide receivers. You've got what you really need to have an offense. The question always remains the same with the Chargers. Are they willing to pay that kind of money? Because the Chargers are notoriously stingy with their own first-round picks.
I mean, it took Joey Bosa until 3 days before the start of the season when he was drafted, before he even stepped on the field.
The Chargers make it a bigger problem for themselves. But if I was Bieniemy, that's where I would want to go, as long as you're willing to actually pay me and get the deal done.
And it's not even just with draft picks. Like, they wanted to pay Melvin Gordon basically nothing and then let him go to a rival team for less than what he was asking for from the Chargers. So, like, their mindset makes no sense. They don't have a whole lot in cap space. Definitely nowhere near as much as the Jaguars do. Jags have $81 million. The Chargers have 29.
They don't really need it. They need things, but they don't need necessarily a ton of free agents. It's not like they need to go out and hit the market and fix a bunch of things.
Right. So,
and to me, that's a much lesser of a project. But that's who I would go with, and that's who I think would land there, is assuming he gets paid to do so.
Right. Tony says Bieniemy. I say Byron Leftwich. Dan Beebe, Dan O'Shea. What do you guys think?
I'd like to see Leftwich be interesting.
Yeah, I also think if a guy like Justin Fields happens to fall to the Jets, if they don't have a coach by then, Byron Leftwich makes a lot of sense.
He definitely does for him, yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a solid argument for either of those guys. I do think the Chargers are going to go with an offensive-minded coach. They've both shown some pretty good success at teaching quarterbacks, especially. So I do think those are both the favorites to go there. I think they'll probably be the enemy's destination, but it could go either way.
You're absolutely right. So let's move on quick to the Houston Texans. They have a negative $16 million cap space. That's terrible. Oh my god. How do you have that? Like, how do you have negative $16 million?
GM first.
My god,
they
yeah.
didn't hire one yet, did they?
No, as of yesterday, it's still vacant. But I have a hard time thinking of anyone for the Houston Texans because of how bad Bill O'Brien was and how bad decisions made have really screwed up this team. I feel like at this point you can't bring in a first-time head coach. You need to bring in someone who's been there already. Maybe take a risk with a coach that, has not had a lot of success, or bring in one that's been moderately successful. The two names that I think I had a hard time, but Anthony Lynn and Josh McDaniels were the two that I was thinking of. Anthony Lynn, I know, was just fired by the Chargers, but he also, I feel like, wasn't given as fair of a shake because a lot of the players he inherited had piss-poor attitudes about the game before he even got there. And so their negative, I don't want to say like energy, but like their negative energy really weighed the team down. Before Anthony Lynn got there, they were literally finding any fucking way to lose they could. Right? So I think Anthony Lynn didn't get as fair of a shake. But also, Josh McDaniels, I think, has run one of the most prolific offenses ever in the NFL. And I think it's a matter of time before he gets another shot. Is this the right spot for him? I don't know. He's got Deshaun Watson. He's got a lot of stuff to really look forward to on that team. Some really good defensive players. J.J. Watt. Again, he's got Deshaun Watson. Like, how is that not attractive? You got Deshaun Watson. So
this is also a spot that if they're going after former head coaches, you've got to look at. I mean, because his team was shut shit for a long time. Oh, wait. Experience. You look at people like Marvin Lewis or Jim Caldwell.
I'm sorry, Dan O'Shea. What was that?
I just saw something that they may have signed a GM today.
Oh.
I think
I
they got
wouldn't be surprised. They got to get one.
Okay.
All right. Still, I think you need a head coach that has had either a little bit of success or was close to success that you can also throw under the bus if things don't go well. And like I said, Josh McDaniels and Anthony Lynn are two guys that applies to. But what Dan Beebe?
Apparently, this article I'm reading from Texans Daily says that Josh McDaniels is not a coaching candidate for them.
I mean,
that makes sense for Houston.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
I mean, personally, he's not my favorite because I just don't trust Belichick's tree. But I feel like you should at least look into it, not just announce right away that. Well, apparently it was leaked. It wasn't announced by anybody, but it's been leaked that they're not